Yes, yes, y'all. It's iconic. And I told y'all, we're coming back, getting a little more consistent, bringing some more videos out on the channel. As you can see, we're going to be doing a tier list today. I've seen, obviously, a lot of people breaking down the Pride Win tier list, and I want to look at that eventually too as well. But for today, this is going to be my tier list, and we're going to break down the criteria for the tier list and get to ranking these characters for 1.1. Let's go. All right, so first, let's start off with the criteria for the rankings that we're going to be doing today. And then I'm going to have to give you guys a quick legal disclaimer because you always have to for these tier lists. So, what we want to look at today, we're going to be ranking main character 4 stars and then the 5 stars. And I'm looking at a holistic view of the characters in the game. We want to look at how valuable they are to your account, how accessible they are, what type of weapons that they might possibly want to have, overall enjoyability of the character, their kits, damage output for your DPSs. So we're going to be looking at quite a few factors in here to base the rankings on. Of course, I have to hit you guys with a quick legal disclaimer. Iconic Gaming is not responsible for any hurt feelings that you may have because I ranked your character low. Any high investment characters that you put in and they're in the D tier, that's on you. It's not my fault. These are just my thoughts, my opinions. Now let's get into the rankings. All right, so first off, we've got our main character, and I'm going to use female rover to do Havoc, and we're going to use male rover for Spectro. So let's start off with Havoc. So I'm going to be putting Havoc rover into the A tier. I think it goes without saying that this is one of the best main characters that we've actually had in a gacha game like this. Havoc Rover is definitely very powerful, a character you want to invest into. You can get a lot of her upgrade materials from just playing the game. You can also get a really good weapon for her, Emerald of Genesis, as her best in slot from Union level 45 from the selector box that you get for that. Or if you're just pulling on the standard weapons, it's definitely a good weapon to get. It's universal across a lot of the sword users as their best in slot or one of their best in slots. So she has some good accessibility. The damage is definitely there. But the main reason I like her is for either quick swap teams or dual DPS hyper carry teams. She works very well in that role. Now, I'm not a fan of her kit. It's not very flashy, which, I mean, her kit doesn't have to be flashy, of course, but just the way some of the attacks land, just for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of her kit, but I definitely like swapping into her doing the Dreamless Echo, and I also really like her her ult. Having that nuke for her is definitely very good, and she slots in very well to a lot of different teams, a lot of different comps. So she's definitely sitting in a good spot, I think. Now for Spectro Rover, this one is kind of I want to put him into C, but that again, this is just my personal opinion. I have seen, I mean, there is some value here potentially, so we could probably place him at the end of B. We'll see if we need to adjust it as time goes on. For right this second, I'm gonna place him into C, and we may adjust this as we go along and put more characters in. But the big reason for the C ranking for me is just there's not a lot of valuable team comps where you're going to run Spectro Rover. There's definitely more valuable characters that you can put here. The thing that I think bumps it up a notch is you can get this character all the way to S6. I believe. I think I have S4, S5 right now, if I'm not mistaken, with just playing the game. So that definitely provides some value, and they do consider the main character a 5-star character in Wuthering Waves. So that in itself gives it a little bit of value, and obviously it being a free character, you might want to bump it up a notch. But I think overall, the kit for me isn't that great at all. I didn't really like playing Spectro Rover with the beginning team that you get with Yang Yang and Chishia. It performs pretty decent actually, for definitely for a free team, but you're gonna get other characters very quickly. Wuthering Waves is not stingy when it comes to the pulls, so I think you're gonna outpace your Spectral Rover very quickly. So that's why I've got him in C, but I could see low B as well, and we'll see as we go along here. Yang Yang, I definitely have her in the C tier. She brings some good things. I actually like her kit. I think she's fun to play. She doesn't require a ton of investment, and she actually is pretty good because she can build up extra energy for your team in her rotation. But she doesn't deal a lot of damage. She does take a decent amount of field time running her. Really what saves her is her grouping capabilities, but because she's a 4-star, there are other characters I think that group a little bit better than her. And overall, I mean, when you're talking about bosses, like, her single target isn't that great. So her grouping capabilities, her AoE is pretty good, but just not really a high value character. I think there's a lot of other people you could build before her, but I could completely understand if you did want to main her. Again, I like her kit. I like her animations. I can't stand her in the story quest. Her voice actor is, I don't know who gave her the direction or any direction, but everything's like this South Beckett. Like, it's, I cannot rock with her from that front. But I have played with her quite a bit. I haven't personally built her up on the account, but just kind of playing with her in the story mode and Elusive Realms. I like her kit is kind of where I'll leave it. I like her kit. She can run with several different weapons. Definitely doesn't need a ton of investment unless you're trying to main her. So she has her role, she has her place, but I wouldn't really put her ahead of too many characters right now. All right, Chisha. She's going to be our first B tier character. Chisha, I'm not sure how you say her name, but I've seen some people tearing it up with her, which is why I personally probably had her more in the C tier, but just seeing some videos of clearing, she seems to be able to stay at range so she doesn't take a lot of damage. She's got a really cool burst. She's got a really cool skill. There's not a lot of gun users in the game, so she's really the only main DPS gun user that we have right now. So yeah, she has some value, and I think she's bumped up a little bit now that Chong-Li is out. Her value has definitely gone up a little bit because that is one of her best teams that you can run her with. So I think she's definitely stepped up a little bit. The 5-star standard weapon is going to be her best in slot. So that's also, again, easy to get from just doing pulls on the weapon banner, or if you happen to use your Union level 45 selector box for her, you can definitely do that if you want to. That works well on more Teffy as well. So yeah, good overall character, I think. Good design, good animations. But definitely there's other characters that will out DPS her for sure. But she's got a good little play style. I'm building her up now to go with one of my Chong-Li teams, and just to try her out and see what that feels like. But I think she's a solid character for sure. Baija. I struggle with her as well because I kind of want to put her in C tier because all these people that I'm putting at the beginning, I don't like her kit at all. I can't stand it. But I love her character design. Her character design is peak. I wish I could play her because I would play her all the time. And I probably do need to build her up, as I need somebody else in that support role. My Verina's getting burnt out. She's on every team all over the place. So I would like to build Baija up, but I just don't like her kit. I really don't like the Glacio element, the ice right now. There's not a ton of value with the characters that are in there at the moment, I would say. I would say it's one of the weaker elements. Not that the elements themselves really matter for Wuthering Waves, but there's just not a lot of support characters and good buffs and things that are going on when it comes to Glacio at the moment. But she does have extreme value. I mean, you could probably really realistically probably even put her in the A tier. I'm going to leave her in B for now, but because we don't have many healers, we don't have many support characters that are truly dedicated in that role right now, she definitely has massive value to your account. And I mean, she's the 4-star version of Verina. I mean, when I put it that way, she probably should be an A. I'm just not a fan of her kit, man. I wish it was better. I cannot stand that little sea lion. I don't even know what it is that comes out. That thing is ugly. It's stupid. I don't like her rotation. Like, I don't like any of it. But I love her design. I love her design. But yeah, she does have value on your account with her being a 4-star. Very easy to get her copies. You can get her right out of the store if you want to. And if you don't have a Verena, you absolutely need her. So she has some big value in the game. I will definitely say that. Mortefi. Early on in the game, I actually did have him as an S tier support. I think now that things have settled in, I would definitely put him above Baija, behind Havoc Rover, and he may go down a little bit into the A tier, but he's very cool in terms of like his field time and rotation. He does as a support, he does off field coordinated attacks, which is very cool to see. So he has some value there. You don't really need a lot of on field time with him. He has a very, very quick rotation. And then he does provide an outro buff for your characters. Now his buff is where he's kind of lacking a little bit. As really he fits in with Gion's team is really his best team that you can put him on. And he works really, really well there. But he can slot in almost anywhere. Like, he's definitely a character that can go anywhere. But in terms of maxing out his potential, and if you really want to look at the meta, there's not a ton of teams for Mortefi. He works well with Jinshi too as well. You could argue maybe you could put him on Chong Li team with the extra fusion damage that she gives, but he doesn't really do anything for her per se. So he can go on just about any team. But yeah, in terms of like where his peak performance kind of lies, I don't think he's as versatile as we kind of thought in the beginning. So I've knocked him down for maybe thinking he was an S tier support. I've bumped him into the A tier, but still a really, really good character, still somebody that's worth building. He gets way more valuable with his copies. So you definitely want to pull copies for Mortefi. Once you get him to S5, S6, he does start to become a little bit ridiculous. So he's definitely a good character. And he can run multiple 4-star options. He doesn't, for his weapon, he doesn't need a really crazy weapon, but you can pull the 5-star weapon for him, especially if you have Chisha and you're building her up. You could also swap that on to Mortefi too as well. Sanwa. I've got her in A tier, and I think I will put her towards the end of A tier. I wouldn't be mad if somebody were to put her in a B tier either, but I think she is a really good support. The thing that really works for her is she is very flexible when it comes to her team comps. She can slot in almost anywhere. She has a super quick rotation. She builds up her forte, her energy really quick for her outro buff. And she can get to her skill really quick. She can get to her burst really quick. Deals decent enough damage with moderate investment. Lots of different weapons that you can use on her. So she's just an overall really good character. And the more that I play her, the more that I build her up. I'm really starting to see the value for her on my account. Again, I'm not as big of a fan of her kit, even though it's very quick, which is what I like about it. But I wouldn't consider her myself like ever building her up as a main DPS or anything like that. I would definitely keep her in that sub DPS / support role. But yeah, she's overall got a really good design. I definitely like her design. I like how she came into the story too as well. But yeah, we're going to have her in A tier. Don Jin. This may be controversial, but for me personally, and this is probably skill issue, but I have built her up, but I have her in B tier. And I know you can use her as a main DPS. She's really good in specific scenarios. Like, she's great at bossing. She's great at single target. She's not really great in AoE scenarios, at least not as great as she is when it comes to single target and bossing. She offers that high risk, high reward playstyle, so people definitely like to play her. I personally don't like my characters being on the edge like that. And again, it's probably skill issue on me. I haven't played her a ton. I typically play her on a dual DPS team with Havoc Rover. I've experimented a little bit with her with Havoc Rover and Chong Li, and I like the quick swap variations of having the double Dreamless when it comes to her and Havoc Rover. So for me, that's how I play her, but I know people do actually use her as a hypercarry main DPS, which is absolutely cool. No hate to anybody that does that, and I know people love to play her just to be able to show off that skill expression. She has a very high ceiling, but for me, it's just not a character that I'm probably ever going to be that comfortable playing. So to me, her use case for my account personally is a little bit limited. I do like her design. I can't wait until we get a story quest from her or companion quest, whatever they decide to put her in. If it's an event, we get to see her a little more in the story or whatever the case may be. I'm excited for that, and that may actually cause her to bump up a little bit. But yeah, I see the value, I see the use cases, but for me personally, and my character is my account, I just wouldn't slot her in. There's definitely other people I would use, and I just use her to experiment and play around and quick swap a little bit more than really drive her as a main DPS type character. Yan Wu, aka Papa Smacks is what some people call him. I call him Smack Daddy. I think I probably will have him a little higher than most. I think more than likely he will still probably be beside Sanwa here. But I think he's gotten a little bit more value recently. He works well in a Jin Shi comp, which was interesting to see. I wouldn't have thought that. But he does some off-field damage too with his coordinated attacks. He's got some interruption resistance built into his kit. He can help break the shields of the boss very easily. But his multipliers kind of suck. Everybody knows that. Like, his multipliers aren't great, but it does get better the more you invest into him, the higher you put his level, and the more defense that you can build up on his character. So I experimented around with him. I've done everything from support roles, dual DPS. I played him with Yinlin. I have main DPS'd him, and I will say he does get better. You just really, really, really need to pump the defense on him. But you can use him in a very quick rotation to just go out, throw out his pillar, swap him off. As he's doing that, he's building up his forte gauge on the side. He's easy to parry with. You can definitely use him in a more supportive role and put the Moonlit set on him too as well. So he's got some good value for my account personally. But I also pulled Kalcharo was my first 5-star character that I pulled. I have a copy of him. I've experimented a lot with him, so he fits in pretty well with that comp. He fits in on an all-electro team with Yinlin. I do have Yinlin. And then he's starting to slide in with more roles. Like, I've even played him with Chongli a little bit to see how he works there. I've played him with Jian to see how he works there. And he is, I think, a little better than people give him credit for. Again, he's going to be underwhelming probably as a main DPS without really, really high investment, without really, really good echoes. Gauntlets themselves, there's no really great gauntlets. The 5-star gauntlets suck. We haven't gotten a limited 5-star pair of gauntlets yet, so that kind of remains to be seen. But I think his value could even go up as we see maybe a better pair of 5-star gauntlets that come out. But yeah, he can fit into a lot of different roles, and he's a little more flexible, I think, than people want to give him credit for. And yeah, his shield feels really good. The interruption resistance is decent. Being able to break down the boss's shields, pretty valuable too as well. Alto. I am probably going to put him. Again, this is my opinion. I haven't played him a lot. I do have him. I don't have him built up, but I've done his trials. I've tried him in a couple other areas too as well when he's available, when he's there, just to see how I like him. I would probably go ahead of Yang Yang, I think. And again, just seeing people use him as a main DPS, he seems like he has a pretty fun playstyle. And his kit, I think, is better than I thought it was initially, just from playing around with him. Seeing people that have really mastered him, he seems like he has a fun playstyle. But there's just so many better damage dealers that are out there compared to Alto that I don't see why, even if you were looking 4 stars, like, I would probably build Chishia up before him in terms of having like a gun user. If I was looking at anyone else, I mean, I just can't see why I would build him up on my account personally right now. I do like his where he popped in the story. He was actually a little funny, kind of a breath of fresh air. In the beginning there, where the voice actors were pretty bad in the beginning, he was kind of a bright spot in the story, and I appreciated his character, his voice actor. So that in itself has a little bit of value, but yeah, overall, I just can't see many people using him unless you really enjoy his kit. Which if you do, I think he does have a fun play style, and I could see why you would, but just in comparison to the other characters and value on your account, I couldn't see wasting the resources at this point in the game on him. Tao Chi. I wanna put her there. She is so clunky and slow, but I think she does go into the end of C tier now, and she's gotten just a little bit more value recently. She does have a comp that's pretty good with Jin Shi. Obviously, you can run her with Chong-Li too as well if you want to, but her kit is just so clunky. Everything is so slow with her, and like the payoff isn't really there, I would say. Now she does provide some good utility on your account too as well. And if you needed like a broad blade user, I could see why you would want to build her up, especially if you have Chong-Li, if you have Encore. But in terms of just overall value to the account, like this is somebody you could leave out. And she may end up in D tier, but I think for now I would slide her beside Yang Yang right now. Ling Yang. This dude, he's gonna be our first 5-star pick here, outside of Rover, and I am gonna put him in D tier. I'm sorry to anybody that mains him, loves him, enjoys him. I didn't like his character design, his kit. I didn't like his story quests. I don't, just as a 5-star character. I mean, he's a standard banner 5-star, but as a 5-star character, I mean, he's the one that you pull and you might want to re-roll your account. Again, as I was saying earlier, Glacio's kind of in just a spot where it's not great, I would say. His kit definitely, it does have a higher ceiling to it, but his numbers just aren't that impressive to me. Even to people that I've seen that are really good at using him, like it's another one of those situations, just kind of like Alto, where I don't see why you would want to build him up compared to other characters, outside of you really liking him. Of course, you really like his kit. You're simping for Ling Yang for whatever reason. I don't know why you would. He's a boy beast character. I didn't like his story, none of that. But yeah, just very underwhelming. Maybe he gets better with time. Maybe there's a support that comes out and just puts him through the roof or something crazy and bumps him up into the B tier. But for me, like this is the one character that I don't have him on my account, and if I got him, I would be livid. Especially if it was I just got to pity on the standard banner, or one of the novice banners or something in the beginning, where you can get the rolls for cheaper. I would re-roll my account. Like I'm not getting him. Encore. So Encore, love the design, love the kit. She's definitely an A tier. I think, do I want to put her above Havoc Rover? I think for me personally, again, my opinion, yes. Just because I have more comps that I did run actually Encore, Havoc Rover, and Don Jim for a while, but now with Chong-Li, I have some other comps where Encore is kind of showing her value a little bit more. To really have her own team even, or to run alongside Chong-Li. The quick swap potential is there. I really do like that play style of quick swapping when you can, even though it's not as viable as it was before they nerfed it. But she definitely is another character that has a low barrier to entry, but her skill ceiling is definitely higher. You do need to know her proper rotations. You do need to invest into her a decent amount. She's absolutely going to want a 5-star rectifier. You can go with the standard banner. Yin Lin's was best in slot for her though. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pull that one on my account, but I do have the standard banner 5-star rectifier for her, which does a decent enough job. I share that between her and Yin Lin. And to me, she's just a little more fun to play, I think, when it comes to her kit and everything, for me, compared to Havoc Rover, as to why I would move her up. And she does really, really good damage for being a standard banner 5-star character. I think there'll be something that happens with Fusion. I know we haven't seen that character yet, but I think she's going to see probably a little more value in the future too. But with these type of games, she could fall way down this list, depending on who we get later on. So for right now, where she is in the game, I think she's in a good spot DPS-wise. I would say she is probably, the strongest standard banner DPS that you can get. And good value overall for your account. And she just gets even better with her dupes. Now, Verena is going to be, no surprise here, our first S-tier character. Her overall value to the account, I mean, she goes on so many team comps, and we just don't have anyone else to really replace her right now. She's going to be the best healer in the game. Her numbers aren't great. Like, she doesn't need a lot of investment because her numbers just don't really go up that much with higher levels. So she doesn't require a ton of investment. You can use the variation, the 4-star rectifier on her, which is very free to play accessible. You should be able to get plenty of copies of that as well. As long as you've got her energy regen built up, you've got some healing bonus, and her healing scales off of attack. Really, she's not that complicated to build. You don't need a lot of echo investment. Obviously, her outro buff is the best in the game. It does go to the whole team, which is great, which is something we're not seeing with any of the other characters right now. So she provides a ton of value for your entire account, and she can slot in on just about any team. Like, you really could just throw Verena in with any other 2 characters, as long as you have a DPS or a couple of sub DPSs. But she can do it all in terms of being on any comp with any groups of characters. She does coordinated attacks too as well, so she's really good with Jin Shi. There's just so much value to have her on your account. So I would argue with your selector, you probably want Verena if you didn't get her on your beginning banner or you haven't gotten her yet. If you still happen to have that selector, if you're just starting the game out and you want to know like what character is going to bring the most value to your account, it's still Verena. She holds that slot. I don't see her getting knocked off anytime soon until we get another healer support character, buff character that can do what she does. Calcharo. Now I gotta be realistic with this because this is my boy. Obviously he was inflated and he got nerfed a little bit. The nerfs to quick swap didn't help too, and it brought down his Yin Lin team from being like pretty much the best team in the game at the time to being kind of mid. But because I've invested quite a bit into him, I've played him a lot, I'm very comfortable with this playstyle. So for me personally, I would have him, I think, above Havoc Rover, but behind Encore. But I do think overall he probably goes here for me. Again, just in terms of value for my account, my opinion. For most people, I think they would have him low B tier, and I could see people even putting him in C tier. But there really is some skill expression that goes on with him, and when you want to time your dodges, when you just want to go full out and try to unleash your DPS at the right time, he works very well with having a shielder with him. So Jianshin, Yan Wu, I actually really like that team comp with him. To be able to just give him extra shield so he could just go ham and not really have to worry about the dodging. His parry timing is a little weird, but once you start to use him and you learn his animations, I'm actually decent at parrying with him. I would say he's one of my best parry characters, obviously outside of like Jian, but several of his attacks all of his attacks basically can parry. So it's just doing it during the right animation frame. Like you have to line it up with the boss just right. But the more you play with him, I think the better you get with him. And he is clunky. Don't get me wrong. I can see why anybody would bump him down to B or C tier, but he actually does have pretty good damage. But he does require some decent investment. You do want a Yin Lin with him, is one of obviously the better teams. Again, I like Jianshin and Yan Wu with him. I think is a really good comp that's a little bit underrated. He doesn't have technically a best in slot weapon. It's the standard 5-star broad blade, but there's not anything that's come out that's like specifically 100% tailor made for him. So everything's kind of like more of a stat stick at this point. Verdant Summit, Gion's weapon works really well with him. The 4-star Battle Pass weapon, what is it, Autumn Trace, that one works really well with him, and it helps him to get some more crit rate. That's currently what I'm running with him, but I have tried Verdant Summit with him. Jin Shi's weapon works really well with him. So he has a lot of options for his weapons. It's just getting the optimal rotation with him, I think, is where people get kind of caught up on him. Like, you're more than likely, unless the boss is stunned, unless the boss is staggered, like you're not going to unleash his full potential damage in one rotation. But over time, his hits hit pretty decently hard. Not his basic attacks. His skills are okay as long as you put some investment there. His heavy attack, and then his resonance liberation damage, or his ult, that turns into its heavy attack damage, isn't it? Off the top of my head, I can't quite remember. I think it's heavy attack damage. But those actually hit pretty hard. So yeah, I think people are a little hard on Calcharo, which rightfully so. I get it. Like, his design is great. He seemed like he was going to be this amazing character, and he is a little more underwhelming than, people probably had him S tier in the beginning before the changes, especially with the Inland. So I don't mind slotting him in here, even if you want to say, Baija's ahead of him. Like, that's where I would put him on my account, and I enjoy running him. He's definitely one of my main teams. Definitely not as good. A couple more things. Definitely not as good in tower. Not mad at anybody that would say that. He's not as good in tower. Bosses that have a lot of movements and you need to dodge a lot, he's not going to be optimal for that. But he has his place in the game. It's not like he's a shit character, like I think a lot of people want to say about him right now. I'm never sure if I'm saying her name right or wrong. These characters, there's too much similarity in the character names. But Jianshin, that's why I've been saying it, Jianshin. I have a hard time with her because she does provide a lot of good utility, but it's the classic jack of all trades scenario. She does a ton. And again, she can provide some decent value for your account, but she just doesn't excel in any of the areas where you want to put her in. She's not, I'll probably put her at the end of B tier, but she's not great as a main DPS. It takes forever to fill up her forte gauge. Her heavy attack that you hold down once you've built up her forte gauge takes a very long time to execute. It takes forever. And then you have to do that to be able to get the shield as well as the healing. And both of those are mediocre. The healing isn't great. The shield is okay. But it takes so long to get it. And I feel like she just feels clunky to play. Like, if we're talking clunky, like, I think to me she feels a little more clunky than Calcaro. And I did early game invest into her quite a bit because I did not want to run Baija. So I thought she was going to be my secondary support healer type character. And so far, she just really hasn't been that. Again, she fits in really well with that Caro team I was mentioning. There's a couple other teams where she fits in, but I don't have a ton of use for her really. But I do think she has her spot. She has her place. Her design is very well done. I really like the splashes of green that they did into her design, and I love monk characters, so I want to be able to play her, and maybe I'll come up with some more things later. But yeah, she just doesn't fit into a ton of different spots for me right now. But there is a lot of utility to her character. And again, same issue with the gauntlets. There's not a ton of great gauntlets for her, but there are a lot of accessible options. And she can replace a Abijah, like not all the way if you're just looking for a dedicated healer, but in terms of a support, can buff your other characters, can give you a little bit of healing, can give you a little bit of shielding, a little bit of damage. Her grouping capabilities is actually really good. But yeah, everything kind of leans more towards the side of mediocre, which is why I would put her in B. Jian, I think again I did have him in S tier around the start of the game. Now that we've had some more characters come out and he's kind of outclassed DPS wise by Jin Shi, and he's still up there. Like it's not like he's getting blown away, especially like when you look at it in terms of like a full DPS per rotation and not just per second and nuke capabilities. He does still go to battle with her, especially if you're investing into him and you have some copies. But he has, I think, fallen down just a notch with the release of Jinshi. I would put him at the top of A. I would put him above Encore. And it's just all the little things that he brings into as well. His gameplay is very easy. You just need to use him as a hyper carry. You can do some quick swappy things with him. And again, there's a couple of dual DPS setups that I've tried with him. But you pop him with Mortefi, with Farina, and Baija, he's good to go. He has a little bit of grouping capabilities built into his kit too as well. His initial, if you build up his forte gauge and then you do his ult, he throws his broad blade down and it does kind of a mini nuke. It's not crazy damage, but it's not a small amount of damage either. I mean, it's not crazy, but it's a decent amount of damage. And then he's a parry machine. Like, you don't have to really, you can go full brain dead mode with him. Just make sure he gets buffed up, go to him, hit his ult, and just go to town. So from that aspect, I think he's one of the easiest characters to play. He does deal good damage. You can slot him into again, multiple teams. You can really run whatever you want with him because he's going to take up all the field time. So I like Gian. I have him on my account. He definitely wants his 5-star weapon, his limited 5-star weapon, Verdant Summit. But yeah, overall good character. Yin Lin. I think for me, I mean, I was simping. Don't get me wrong. She came out and I was like, I gotta get me Yin Lin, especially because I was maining Kalkaro. I couldn't wait for her to come out. But I think she has elevated a little bit, where maybe I would also put her at the top of A. But she's just so flexible because she does off-field damage. She could be your main DPS, but she definitely fits way more into that sub DPS role. As much as I did have her on the Electro Echo set, I've now switched her over to Moonlit. Her outro is, even though a lot of people can't take 100% advantage of it, it's still a really good outro. You combine that with Moonlit. You combine that with her off-field coordinated attacks. You really don't need to use a whole lot of field time up with her if you don't want. She can absolutely fit into several quick swap teams. She is seeing a lot of value on my account, and you can run her with just about anyone, and there's going to be some compatibility there. Is it always going to be perfect? Not necessarily, but she just has so much flexibility because she doesn't need to be on the field as much, and she does deal decent damage, and she does have the outro buff. You put her on Moonlit, you're going to help out your other characters too as well. I think she's a damn good sub DPS / support character. And I think her value is only going to grow as time goes on. If she finally gets like a real dedicated Electro main DPS that can run along with her, better than Calcharo, better than Yan Wu, like I think you're going to see she's going to have a crazy team at some point. So I'm not basing this off potential in the future either. I just think for right now, like she can work with a lot of teams. She can work with Jian if you want to run them with that. She can work with Encore, Havoc Rover, Chongli, Chichia, obviously Calcharo, Yanwu. There's just a lot of good synergies that she has. And she could also slot in again as a main DPS if you really want to hyper invest into her and run her that way. She does have that capability. If you like her that much and you're investing heavily into her, she can absolutely do that. Now, Gen C has proven herself to be the best DPS in the game. She definitely came out and killed it, and power crept a little bit and took it to a slightly new level. I won't say like she's blowing out the game. And again, in terms of value of her account, value of having her on your account, she's not. I wouldn't say she's as valuable as Verena, because there's several. If you like other main DPSs, like you don't have to have Gen Shi. I personally didn't pull for her, although after her story quest, that elevated her for me too as well. I didn't think she was going to be a character that I even wanted to pull for, and I was proven wrong. I played her a lot in Elusive Realms. I played her story quests. I played her trials quite a few times. So I've definitely learned her kit and her rotation, and she just feels very satisfying and good to play. She has the best screenshot damage in the game, the best nuke in the game, the best echo in the game now that we have the G-Way echo that came out alongside her, which is cool to see. But I mean, value for the account, like you definitely, with her being limited, you've got to get your pulls up. She's not on banner now. We've moved on to Chong-Li, but she definitely wants her weapon too as well. Her weapon is by far her best in slot, easily. So you do need to invest in her a little bit. And you do want to have some other characters kind of decently built out to go alongside her too as well. But yeah, she has definitely proven herself as the best DPS in the game. Now we've got Chong-Li. This is it. This is peak for me. You guys might not agree. I wouldn't care if you put her in A tier, but for me, she is S tier. And I'm not just saying that because she's my favorite character. I'm saying that because she, alongside Yin-Lin, and I don't know if I can put her ahead of Yin-Lin just yet. I will because she's my favorite, and I will say there's my bias right there. But you can run her as a main DPS. You can run her on a dual DPS team. You can run her on a quick swap team. She has a lot of different comps that she fits in with and feels pretty good. Her damage isn't like through the roof crazy, but with good investment, and especially if you get a couple copies, if you can get her up to S2 or S3, she has some decent dupes. Her signature weapon really isn't necessary, which is cool for her. Her signature isn't that much more high ahead of the standard 5-star, the Emerald Genesis. Her limited 5-star weapon, obviously you want to get it for her. Like anybody that's rocking with Chong-Li, like you want her weapon, but she can rock with Emerald of Genesis if you have that. That works very well with her too as well. She does require a pretty good amount of echo investment, I will say too as well, because she needs some pretty specific things to make her go to her full potential. But yeah, just the flexibility, hyper carry, quick swap, dual DPS. I think her potential is through the roof. And again, we haven't seen the perfect character to go alongside her just yet. So she's got a lot of room to grow, a lot of ceiling to grow. I think her DPS feels pretty good, but I did invest quite a bit into her. I pretty much have just about everything I can maxed out until I get to Union level 60 with her, where I still have some room to go on my Gion. I still have a little more room to go on my Calcaro. Havoc, Grover, and Encore have some more that I can do with them. So she's really my first character that I've built all the way. Yin-Lin is almost done too as well. But she feels good to play. I think she's got some of the best animations of any gacha character I've ever seen. So all of that elevates her. Her story quest, obviously her character design, obviously being a simp for her, obviously all these factors play into it for me. But I do have her in my S tier. Now there's one more character to look at here. I'm not gonna look at the new characters, but this obviously isn't a playable character. But Abby. This little shit. Oh my god. I actually like the voice acting of this character, so I'm just talking about the story quest, obviously, but probably end of C tier, character. We don't need. Is she? Abby, I don't know. Is she a girl? Abby, I guess. It sounds like a guy a little bit, but the voice is annoying. Even though the voice acting that's done is really well, the voice itself is annoying. I don't need another Paimon, furry ass Paimon character running around, popping up randomly. Like, it just, to me, it doesn't add much to the game. I've been annoyed when she pops up, and I mean, I guess it's kind of a cool little story how it came about, but like, I don't need her to be popping up from the game here on out, and it's not adding anything for me. So yeah, Abby, y'all can just cut Abby. I mean, but we probably could just throw her in D tier. Is she ahead of Ling Yang? She's probably ahead of Ling Yang. Sorry, but outside of that, yeah, we can axe Abby, get her out of here. So yeah, closing thoughts just to wrap it up. Definitely want to do some more of these tier lists. I want to take a look at weapons. Want to take a look at echoes. Give you guys a little bit more information on my account, how I'm doing, how I'm progressing when it comes to Wuthering Waves. But I've been having a lot of fun with this game. I definitely see me in it for the long haul, at least for now. Just a couple pointers on the tier list too as well. Again, my thoughts, my opinions, kind of where I've seen the value of these characters on my account, playing the story, their kits, their animations, all of those things I'm kind of putting into consideration. And again, this is from my scope, my lens, my perspective. But I think we've got a really good balance of characters so far. You know, we've got plenty of characters in the A tier. We've got some viable options in S tier, some B tiers, and even the C tier. People that I put in C tier aren't bad. Like, I definitely want to stress that and harp that. They're not bad. It's just, how much do you want to invest into these characters over any of these other ones? And for me, just these four, I can't really see where I would invest in them any more than I would any of these other characters above them. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. As always, like, comment, subscribe. You know what to do. I appreciate you guys for checking it out. Leave me some comments down below. I know you guys are going to, and give me your thoughts. Bash the list if you want to, but give me your reasons why. Okay, don't just be coming out here, yang speak. Like, let me know what your thoughts are, why you like someone. If you disagree, love to hear it. And I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.